in Final Fantasy, you always have to start the grind immediately. Like that's just the way they work. And it kind of broke my mind to the point where my mother thought there was something wrong with me because she used to like check in and just sort of, hey, what are you playing? Or, are you winning or whatever?
Pokemon Snap.
And she would all, like, I remember there was an afternoon where she got concerned because I was just in one like courtyard area grinding, and I didn't even know it was called grinding. I just knew that I had to keep training to fight the guy because the guy was too strong.
Yep.
And she came in and checked, and then an hour later came in and checked, and an hour later came and checked, and then she was kind of concerned. She was like, "Are you stuck? You've been in the same place." And it's like, "No, I have to do this. You don't understand. I have to do this." And she looked generally concerned.
Generally concerned?
Genuinely. Words are hard.
It's like my dick.
She was genuinely concerned. She looked like worried. She was like, "You're not frustrated or anything?" I was like, "No, I have to do this. It's the way you're supposed to play the game." And at that point, I was kind of taken hostage by Final Fantasy. But just recently, I went back and tried to play games like Final Fantasy VIII, and I just reached a point where I was like, this is kind of miserable. This is just really miserable. And as much as I like the games, I just want the story. Like I'd much rather at this point just have them be books.
I would totally read Final Fantasy as a book, I think. But honestly, I used to hate like RPGs and shit like that when I was a kid. Like if you had given me, like when I was 13 and stuff, God of War, fuck yeah. But like if now I totally appreciate like the RPG system where you have to grind for hours. I'm like so down for that. It doesn't even matter. Like I think I got like my handle on grinding when I was playing Pokemon a lot as a kid. Like,
yeah,
Pokemon is the one thing where you can grind a lot and you don't really care, and it desensitizes you towards grinding in other games.
You feel it a lot less in Pokemon than in a lot of other games.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a gateway RPG.
They also offer one thing that Pokemon was really good at when it came to the grind is they offer.
Back to the old grind.
They offer good rewards, like your Pokemon evolve and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that incentive. I love the ability to evolve as a reward for hard work.
Right, and
like, more skill, fuck yeah.
And I cared so much less about, and you appreciate this more as you get older, but like the stats as well. It's like, oh my gosh, if I keep training, my Pokemon doesn't just evolve, but it gets tougher as well.
Right? I was totally that was so awesome. Like, there's a game I played like recently that I need to buy now. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. It's called Dragon's Crown.
I know exactly what you're talking
about. Dude,
that
game is the shits. The fucking art style, everything is great.
I'm trying to remember, just in keeping with, the fact that we are playing Borderlands, I'm trying to remember how I discovered this game. Well, I didn't I was introduced to this game pretty soon after it came out, and I remember the big hook of this game was just the sheer number of weapons. And the fact that, when you play a lot of other games, a gun is a gun. Like, a machine gun is always going to be just a machine gun, and a shotgun is always just a shotgun. And sometimes you could customize them with, like, weapon parts, but at the end of the day, that was all you got. And then you pick up this game, and it's like, every weapon feels unique. Sometimes they're just bad guns, but every gun is different. And that was always just so exciting because it's just that hope of like, oh man, maybe if I kill this boss, I'm gonna get an amazing weapon. And that was always really exciting. And getting back to Pokemon and grinding a little bit, I think that's also why out of all my friends that like RPGs, they all play Pokemon. I have friends that didn't play Pokemon, they hate RPGs.
I still like Pokemon to this day.
Dude. People need to know Solid Snake. We're definitely going to do probably the next full, or probably the only completely uncut series we're going to do is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Because those games are really important to me, especially as far as story goes. I put in a lot of effort to fully understand the way Metal Gear Solid works and just the spanning plot. And I put in so much effort to the point where I even watched supplemental videos made by people who just understood the series better than I did.
Yeah.
So I've probably spent just as much time watching videos about Metal Gear Solid than I have playing the games.
I actually never had to look up anything. I was always just like, I really appreciate this for what it is, and I didn't really want to delve deeper into it. I mean,
Well, for me, it wasn't about delving deeper. It was just making sure I understood who people were and what was happening, and more specifically, the order of events.
yeah,
That's one thing Metal Gear Solid has completely fucked, is telling the story in any kind of chronological order.
I don't know. Like, if you based on this fan theory I heard, the first 4 make a lot of sense chronologically because the 4th one is supposed to be about Old Snake and stuff, but like the 3rd one is supposed to be like a prequel. But at the same time, there's a fan theory that wasn't a prequel, that it was a training simulation based on something that happened a long time ago, which is super crazy to me.
That is a pretty crazy way to think about it.
Like, they make a good case for it in like this in the Cracked article I was reading. It was really badass. Like, it's just a fan theory, it's not canon, but it would be badass if that was the case.
Definitely true. I do like, as tired as I get of certain fan theories, like one of my least favorite ones that existed was when Lost was airing. There was this constant theory that, like, oh, they're all dead. They've all been dead since the beginning.
I remember hearing some shit about that, but I never watched Lost. So
I watched Lost to the point where it reached the point where I thought it should have ended and it didn't. But then at that point, I then kept like watching begrudgingly, just because I was like, I have to see how it ends now, because this is where I think it should have been over. It's not over. I have to know how it ends. And it's one of those shows where, to understand the ending, I knew that I was going to have to watch every episode, because I was going to have to keep up. And by the end, I hated it. I just hated all the directions it started going in. And I just hated it. And I still remember Lost Season 2 is one of my favorite seasons of TV.
really,
Yeah. I own Lost Season 2 on DVD. It's the only season of Lost I own.
why'd you like it so much? What specifically about it did you
They
really like?
they introduced something that I thought was one of the best things in Lost, and it was a thing called the Hatch.
Oh, is it that like thing that looks like a basement or something in the island?
Yeah, they discover. I want to say, just trying to make sure I remember this because I don't go back and watch a lot of it. I want to say they find it in season 1, and at the end of season 1, a character who has reached like his wit's end with it finally is able to get it open, and that's how season 1 ends.
Damn.
And then you find the guy inside, and it's when it starts to introduce all these different levels, because all season 1 does is make you think this plane crashed on an island, and there are people who live on the island who aren't taking kindly to these visitors, and they're getting violent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all you really think. And you see people have visions and all that, and you're just like, they're just going crazy. That's all it is. They're just losing their minds. But then with the introduction of all this stuff and the hatch and the guy in the hatch in season 2, you're like, oh my goodness, this island actually, like, people were put here on purpose. There was this Dharma initiative that was trying to do something. It reached this level of like, what is happening? You mean the people on the island first didn't know what was going on? And in the beginning that was cool. But what they started to do that was awful is they're like, hey, we're on the island and there are these indigenous people. They know what's happening and we don't. And then at the end of season 2, it's like, oh, they don't know what's going on. These Dharma Initiative people know what's going on. And then at the end of like season 4, it's like, the Dharma Initiative didn't know anything about what was going on. It was these people before Dharma. And then at the end of the next season, it's like, they didn't know either. So they took one thing I really liked and they just killed it.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning of it when it was still new and it was still really cool to me. And then I hated that show, and then it ended and all the people on it did just about nothing.
It's crazy. Did you know that J.J. Abrams actually wanted to direct a Star Wars movie over the Star Trek movie, but he said in like I never saw the Star Trek movies. I meant to see them, but I haven't made the time. But like he was talking about how I'll never get to make a Star Wars movie, so I wanted to make the Star Trek my Star Wars, and then bang, he got to do it. So there's that. But what really sucks about it, not that he's a bad director, he's not. The thing is, he's a pretty good director. But the thing is, he'll have to direct both those movies forever. And if he has one really good idea, he's going to have to always decide which movie it'll be better to put that in. And he'll always have to second guess himself all the time. Like he'll put it in one of those movies and he'll be like, "Man, I should have put it in that other movie." Even though people will probably be like, "That was awesome that you did that." He'll always in his mind be like, "It would have been better in the other one."
Not just that, but the fact that I like him as a director. I definitely have nothing against J.J. Abrams. But that being said, there was some stuff he did a lot of in Star Trek. For instance, lens flares. That's just kind of what he does. He likes lens flares.
He really likes to not think of new technology either, because cell phones were being used in goddamn what the hell, Star Trek, I think. Like, weren't just, like, normal ass cell phones being used in Star Trek? Isn't that, like, a bit stupid? Like, why wouldn't they have, like, some sort of thing, like, nanobots? Like, Metal Gear Solid, they have nanobots. That's fucking awesome.
Nanobots would be pretty good.
Like, that's the thing. We need to be, like, innovating. We don't need to be just using the same shit we have, or nothing's gonna be made better anymore, ever again.
Yeah,
That's where sci-fi, like, is the thing that inspires everybody to keep jumping towards the future.
What do you think is your favorite, like, and I know this is a really difficult question, and there may not just be a single answer for you, but in terms of film innovation, what is one of the, whether it was like a camera track or a camera crane or whatever, what do you think is probably one of those innovations that at least to you is like your favorite thing? Like you can't imagine something without it, or that it really defines maybe a genre?